Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Chaitanya Charitāmrita audio class. Thank you for joining in. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamriyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathānvitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savadhutam parijana sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, we are discussing from Chaitanya Charitāmrita, Madhya lila, and we are discussing chapter number 6th, the liberation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So far, we have discussed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after taking sannyas. He wanted to go to Vrindavan, but Advaitacharya Nityanand Prabhu tricked him and brought him back to Shantipur. There, all the devotees they met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Advaitacharya called Shachimata and all the devotees from Bengal also there. Shachimata requested that if Nimai goes to Vrindavan, I'll not be able to hear about him anytime. So please, my request is he should make his base in Jagannath Puri. Jagannath Puri and Vrindavan, they are like two rooms in same house. So according to the request of Shachimata, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he decided to shift to Jagannath Puri. He took few devotees with him, Mukunda, Nityanand Prabhu, Sarup Damodar, Goswami, they all were traveling. They went to a place called as Remuna. There, Nityanand Prabhu, there Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the story of Khirchor Gopinath. Then they traveled to Katak. There, Nityanand Prabhu told the story of Sakshi Gopal. And then Mahaprabhu, he reached, and then the Dand Bhanga Lila happened. And Mahaprabhu apparently became angry and he said, I don't want to travel with you. Either you go ahead or I'll go. So devotee said, oh Mahaprabhu, please you go ahead, I will follow you. So Mahaprabhu in great ecstasy, he ran and he reached Jagannath Puri. As he saw the temple of Lord Jagannath, the Chakra of Jagannath, he became so very happy. He entered and got darshan of Lord Jagannath. He became ecstatic. He fainted in ecstasy. And we have discussed till verse number 56. So in these verses, we have heard so far that how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home, which is currently Ganga Mata Mat. And then all the devotees, they were following, they reached Jagannath temple and they came to know that there was a sannyasi. He fainted and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has taken him to his own house. So all the devotees, as they were discussing, they met with Gopinath Acharya. Gopinath Acharya was a familiar person. He was from Navadvip, then he came to Jagannath Puri. So he took all of them to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So that's what I'll just share the slide also. So far, we have discussed how Lord, he regains the consciousness. All the devotees, they came and they did huge kirtan, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back to his consciousness, and then Sarvam Bhattacharya, he offered his respects to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by calling Namo Narayana. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna Matirastu. So Sarvam Bhattacharya could understand that this personality is a Vaishnava sannyasi. And he asked Gopinath Acharya, who is he? Who was he in the past ashram, previous ashram, Purva ashram? And Gopinath Acharya said, actually, he is the son of Jagannath Mishra, and Nilambar Chakravarti is the maternal grandfather. So Sarvam Bhattacharya, when he heard, he could understand, oh, I know them. My father was the batchmate of Jagannath Mishra. So we are related. Was batchmate of Nilambar Chakravarti. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Sarvam Bhattacharya came to know about his identity, he became very pleased. And 56th verse we discussed, where Sarvam Bhattacharya says, Sahaje Pujya Tumi Arata Sanyas Atavev Hautomar Ami Nijadas. So he says, Sahaje Pujya Tumi. You are actually naturally respectable. Besides this, you are a sannyasi. Therefore, I wish to become your personal servant. So Prabhupada writes that how a sannyasi is always to be worshipped. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as soon as he heard Sarvam Bhattacharya saying this, he remembered Vishnu and he became very humble and he spoke that, actually, you are Jagat Guru. Tumi Jagat Guru Sarva Lokahit Karta Vedanta Padao Sanyasi Upakarta. Oh, Sarvam Bhattacharya, you are worshipable. You are the spiritual master of the whole world. You are Jagat Guru. And you are Sarvaloka Hitakarta. You are always engaged in welfare of all the humanity. And particularly, because you are a teacher of Vedanta, Vedanta Padao, therefore, Sannyasira Upakarta, you are actually the benefactor of all the sannyasis. Because according to Mayavad sannyasis, unless they study Vedanta, it is very difficult to maintain sannyas vows because the Vedanta gives them the knowledge of this world, how this world is very futile, and they have to develop relationship with Brahman. So Prabhupada writes, because Mayavadi sannyasis teach Vedanta, they are customarily called as Jagat Guru. Although Sarvam Bhattacharya was not a sannyasi, but because he was teaching Vedanta, so therefore, Mahaprabhu gave him all the respects. And he would also invite, Sarvam Bhattacharya would invite all the sannyasis and he would feed them Mahaprasad also. So therefore, Mahaprasad of Lord Jagannath. So Mahaprabhu said, actually, you are the well-wisher of whole world. So, and you are the well-wisher of sannyasis also. And then out of his natural humility, Mahaprabhu says, I am a balaka sannyasi. Ami balaka sannyasi bhala manda nahi jani. Tomar ashrayani no guru karimani. I am a young sannyasi. I am a balak sannyasi. I don't know what is good, what is bad. So therefore, I have taken your shelter. Tomar ashrayani lu. I have come to your shelter and I accept you as spiritual master. So that's how Mahaprabhu, by his dealings, he makes everyone such affectionate towards him. And that's how he generates sukriti in them. And that's what he is doing now also. He's saying, I am your, like your child. I am a balak sannyasi. I have accepted you as my master. So therefore, he says, actually, and then amazingly says, I have come here only to associate with you. Tomar sang lagi mor ihagaman sarva prakare koribe amaye palan. I have come here only to associate with you, and therefore I am taking your shelter. So will you kindly maintain me in all respects? I have taken your shelter. Please help me. Please maintain me. So that's how he is presenting himself as a very, very a humble and a shelterless person, the person who is giving shelter to the whole universe. The whole cosmic manifestation is coming from him. He is out of his humility saying, I have taken your shelter. That's how Lord can go to such an extent to transform living entities and bring them close to him. He is ready to become such humble, insignificant servant of living entities. That's how merciful and wonderful the Supreme Lord is. He's not thinking, I am a Supreme Lord. Why I should, become humble in front of this insignificant living entity? And on top of that, he's even criticizing me. That's the job of Mayavadi sannyasis. They don't accept the form of the Lord. But that's the magnanimous nature of Krishna and Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has come to give the highest to the lowest. And he particularly wants to drown the entire world with this prema. And then he saw that few people are running away. मायावादी कर्मनिष्ठ कुतार्किक गण निंदक पाषंडीयत पडुया अधम केह महादक्ष धैया पलैया हे बन्याय तासबार छुईते नारिला. Few people were running away. They were not getting drowned. He wanted to drown all the world in this. But those who were Mayavadis, fruity workers, false logicians, and students of the lowest caliber, they were not taking advantage. So Mahaprabhu took sannyas and he transformed all of them. But still, the Mayavadis were remaining. So you heard how Prakashanand Saraswati was delivered. And now Sarvam Bhattacharya, another great Mayavadi, is going to get delivered here. And to deliver living entities, Mahaprabhu, Supreme Lord, is ready to take the lowest of the positions. So, and that's what he is doing here. He says, actually, today, whatever happened, it was by your mercy that I was saved. You gave me shelter. And that's how, Mahaprabhu is generating Sukriti. And that's the job of all the devotees. That's the role a devotee has to play. Somehow or other, we should work in such a way that the people around us, they should become favorable towards the process of Krishna consciousness. We should never ever behave in a way that will make people, inimical towards us, towards the process of Krishna consciousness. So, Srila Prabhupada would always say, a devotee is perfect lady and gentleman. That's how a devotee should always be in public, so that anyone, when they give some respect or appreciate devotee or any part, any limb of Krishna consciousness, they'll get Sukriti. They'll come one step closer to Krishna. So, Bhattacharya says, please do not go to see the deity of Jagannath alone. Please come with me. Whenever I am going, you please come with me. Or, you go with my men. Otherwise, if you go alone and something happens to you, you go into ecstasy and then, we don't know what will happen. So Mahaprabhu says, yes, yes, yes. I shall never enter the temple. I shall stand at the Garuda Stamba and I'll take darshan of Lord. And that's what Mahaprabhu did always. He would just stand at the near Garuda Stamba and he would just take support of Garuda Stamba and near the wall of Garuda Stamba. And we have seen in Jagannath Puri temple, still there are fingerprints of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the wall of that area where Garuda Stamba is there. So Sarvam Bhattacharya, then he told Gopinath Acharya, please take Swamiji for darshan. And he says, actually, I have this apartment of my maternal aunt. It is a very solitary place. So please make arrangements. So we heard how Gopinath Acharya, he made arrangements. He made arrangements for the water pot we heard in the last class. So then after saying everything, Gopinath Acharya, after doing all the arrangements for Mahaprabhu, Gopinath Acharya went to Sarvam Bhattacharya's house. Now Sarvam Bhattacharya starts speaking to Gopinath Acharya. Now starts a wonderful discussion. Sarva Bhattacharya says, somehow, seeing the meek and humble demeanor of this sannyasi, I am getting attracted. I am feeling affection for him. Prakriti vinita sannyasi dekhite sundar, amar bahu priti bade ihar upar. Prakriti vinit. The sannyasi is naturally very meek and humble, and on top of that, he is so very beautiful. Therefore, Amara Bahu Priti Bade Ihar Upar. My affection is increasing for him. So, Sarvam Bhattacharya appreciated that how humble this sannyasi is. Because Mahaprabhu maintained his brahmachari name. He didn't give up that. So Mahaprabhu would attract people by his humility and by his beauty. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopanga Astra Parshadam. What is the Astra? Lord's beauty is the Astra, by which we could just make anyone attracted and destroy their inimical nature or Mayavadi tendencies, make them favorable. Just by the beauty of Krishna, when he was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all the enemies, they see Krishna standing in front of Arjuna and they get, just stunned for a few moments seeing the beauty of Krishna. And taking advantage of that, Arjuna would shoot arrows and they would be delivered. तथैव चान्ये नरलोकवीरा यदा हवे कृष्णमुखारविन्दम् नेत्रे पिबन्तो नयनाभिरामं पार्थाश्रपूता पदमापुरस्य. That's how Lord's beauty is also a weapon to attract everyone and distract them from material attractions. So that's how Mahaprabhu would attract. That's how he attracted Prakashan and Saraswati also. Now, Sarvam Bhattacharya asks Gopinath Acharya, from which sampradaya he has taken sannyas? Kon sampradaya sannyas koriya chena grahan kiva nami hyara shunite hoeman. Which sampradaya he has taken sannyas from? I want to hear. So Gopinath Acharya says, actually his name is Sri Krishna Caitanya and he has taken sannyas from Bharati sampradaya. His guru, sannyas guru, was a greatly fortunate Keshav Bharati. So Sarvam Bhattacharya says, okay, Sri Krishna is a very good name, but because he belongs to Bharati Sampradaya, he is a second class sannyasi. And Gopinath Acharya, when he hears this, he is not so happy. Because he knew that Lord Chaitanya is not an ordinary sannyasi. All these, ashramas and various types of sannyas, they are not suitable for Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu should not be addressed as a second class or first class sannyasi. Out of his mercy, he has taken sannyas. He is beyond all that. Gopinath kohi har nahi bahya apeksha ataeva bada sampradayar nahira apeksha. So Gopinath Acharya says, actually, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not rely on external formality. Out of just, just for the sake of taking sannyas, he has taken sannyas. He does not rely on any of these externals. Actually, there is no need for him to accept sannyas. And then Prabhupada writes in detail about the 10 types of sannyasis in Shankara Sampradaya. So Shankaracharya, he gave 10 types of sannyas names. And in these 10 types, there are 3 which are considered topmost: Tirtha, Ashrama, and Saraswati. So Prakashanand Saraswati, he was the topmost of the sannyasis in Shankara Sampradaya. Tirtha, Ashram, and Saraswati. So Saraswati is considered first class, Bharati is second class, and Puri is third class. So Prabhupada describes in detail who is a Tirtha, who is given a title of Tirtha. A sannyasi who lives at the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, and he takes bath at the confluence, and he has understood this slogan Tattvam Asi. He's called as Tirtha Sannyasi. And a person who is very eager to accept sannyas, he is detached from worldly activities and he has no desire for any of the material sense gratification. He is called as ashrama. He is given the title of ashram. A sannyasi who lives in a solitary place and free from all material desires, he is called as vana. Other sannyasi who lives in the forest, completely renounced from all sense gratification, but his aim is to go to heaven and enjoy in the Nandan Kanan garden there. In the heaven, there is a place of enjoyment garden, beautiful garden with all the apsaras. This sannyasi is given the title of Aranya. There is another sannyasi who prefers to live in mountains and he maintains his purity, he is detached, he is living very simply, studies Bhagavad Gita, and that person is called as Giri. Another personality, another type of sannyasi, he is also staying in great mountains and even he is not even fearful to live among the ferocious animals. He's completely fearless. He's completely renounced. He's a very expert in philosophical understanding, speculation. That person is called as Parvat. Another sannyasi, type of sannyasi, who is actually completely, immersed in absolute truth. And it is like a person who has taken a deep dive in the ocean of philosophical speculation and he has found some jewels of knowledge. That person is called as Sagar. He is given the title Sagar. So, another personality, another sannyasi who is very expert in the art of music and culture. He is expert in learnings. He is completely aloof from all the material attachment. He is called as Saraswati. So all these are 10 types of sannyas. And another is Bharati also. Bharati is one who is freed from all types of ignorance. He is never unhappy in any situation. And the Puri is very expert in knowledge. He's always discussing absolute truth. These are the 10 types of sannyas, Prabhupada writes. Prabhupada has described this earlier in the in the Adi Lila also. And each sannyasi has a brahmachari assistant. So there is somebody called as Swarupa Brahmachari, then Prakash Brahmachari, Ananda Brahmachari, and Caitanya Brahmachari. So because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he maintained his Brahmachari name. So he understood that he is so very humble. So Gopinath Acharya, he says that actually, so Sarvam Bhattacharya says he is from Bharati Sampradaya. He is second class. I can make him first class. I can reinitiate him in Saraswati Sampradaya. And Gopinath was not so happy because he knew he was Supreme Lord and Supreme Lord doesn't depend on anything external. So therefore, he says he was not so happy with this proposal. Now, Sarvam Bhattacharya continues. Bhattacharya ko hai ihar praudha yauvan ke mate sannyas dharma hoibe rakshan. On top of that, first of all, he's so beautiful and he's at the peak of his youth, praudha yauvan, peak of his youth, 24 years he took sannyas. How will he maintain his sannyas above? So, as a very affectionate father, he says, I will teach him Vedanta. Nirantara iha ke Vedanta shunaiba, vairagya dvaita marge pravesha koraiva. I shall continuously teach him Vedanta. And by hearing this Vedanta, he'll become fixed in this philosophy of Vedanta and he'll become very steady sannyasi. So Prabhupada writes, according to Sarvam Bhattacharya, sannyasis are supposed to study Vedanta philosophy very nicely because Vedanta helps one to become completely detached from the material attractions. And Srila Prabhupada, he gives a very, very devotional understanding of Jnana and Vairagya. So these principles of Jnana and Vairagya, they are applicable in all the spiritual paths. Even if somebody is a Mayavadi, they cultivate knowledge to get detached. But of course, that knowledge is the knowledge of impersonal Brahman and the knowledge of, Mayavad philosophy. But a devotee, Prabhupada writes, a devotee also follows all this. He also practices sense control, mind control. He tries to subdue the six urges, Vacho Vegam, Manasa, Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udara Upastha Vegam. He tries to do all that. And then one becomes expert in philosophical understanding. And with that steady mindset, one can practice devotional service very nicely. Because unless the mind is controlled, one cannot practice bhakti properly. It is so very difficult to practice bhakti without controlling the mind. And how to control the mind? One may say that, okay, mind can be controlled only by the practice of bhakti. So which comes first? With whatever mind control we have, start practicing Krishna consciousness, and slowly the vairagya and knowledge will come, our bhakti will increase, and with that bhakti, our mind control will become more and more. And that is the process which works everywhere. With whatever faith we have, we start the practice, and then by the practice, our faith becomes strong, and it goes on. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahitukam. So bhakti gives rise to Gyan and Vairagya for sure. Janayati, Janma hota hai. What takes birth? Gyan and Vairagya. But Gyan and Vairagya is also needed to practice bhakti. So which comes first? It is the same cycle. It is the same understanding. With whatever Gyan and Vairagya we have, start practicing bhakti, and bhakti will make our Gyan and Vairagya more strong. So Sarva Bhattacharya says, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu likes, I can bring him to a first class sampradaya. Now he is a second class sannyasi. He is a sannyasi from Bharati sampradaya. I can make him a sannyasi from Saraswati sampradaya. So when Gopinath Acharya and Mukunda Dutt, they heard this, they became very unhappy. And Gopinath Acharya, he addresses Sarvam Bhattacharya. He says, Bhattacharya tuhimi harana jana mahima bhagavatta lakshanera ihate sima. Oh Sarvam Bhattacharya, you do not understand the greatness of the Supreme Lord. All the symptoms of Supreme Lord are found in this personality. He is a Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And you are telling that he is a second class sannyasi, you will raise him to the first class. So Prabhupada writes that Lord is Shadaishwarya Bhagavatta Lakshana. Bhagavan means Shadaishwarya Purna, Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yasha, Shriya, Jnana, Vairagya. Shadaishwarya Purna. So all the six opulences of the Lord are present completely in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Gopinath Acharya says, what are you saying? He is the Supreme Lord himself. Tahate vikhyate iho parama Ishwar agyasthane kichunahi vigyera gochar. Says Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is celebrated as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tahate vikhyat Bhagavatta Lakshana. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is already glorified as Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, those who are agya means those who are ignorant, they cannot understand. Ichu nahi jane vigyera gochar. They can never understand this. Those who are ignorant, how they will understand that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Lord himself? Now, as soon as Gopinath Acharya made this statement, it was a very big statement to call Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as God. And now, Sarva Bhattacharya is surrounded by many disciples. The disciples, they started speaking. How can you tell that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Lord? Shishya kahe Ishwara kaha kon pramane, Acharya kahe vigyamat Ishwara lakshane. So the Shishya, all the disciples, they say, how can you say that Mahaprabhu is Supreme Lord? And Gopinath Acharya says, Vigyamat, the statements of authorized acharyas. They are the proof. Vigyamat Ishvara Lakshan. Now, Prabhupada writes a very, very important purport. He says, 500 years ago, the disciples of Saramam Bhattacharya, they raised a question. How can you understand? How can you say that this personality is Supreme Lord? And Prabhupada supports their question. Prabhupada writes, if a man proposes that he himself is God, or someone else is God. If people nowadays they say, "Oh, my guru is God and he is God," and some person says, "I am God." Prabhupada writes, he must cite evidence from the scriptures to prove his claim. So therefore, the request of the disciples of Bhattacharya is quite befitting. And Prabhupada continues, Krishna is established as Supreme Lord by various acharyas. And as Arjuna says in Bhagavad Gita, Asito devalo vyasa ahustvam rishe sarve devarshi naradas tatha asito devalo vyasa swayam chaiva bravishime. All the great saints like Asita, Devala, Vyasa, Narada, they are all saying that you are the Supreme Lord. And similarly, there are many great acharyas who say that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord. So the Shishyas, when they hear Gopinath Acharya saying that, well, the words of acharyas are the proof. Shishya kahe Ishvara tatya sadhi anumane, acharya kahe anumane nahi Ishvara jnane. So all the disciples, they say, well, we derive the knowledge of absolute truth by logical understanding. By logic, we understand that this personality is Supreme Lord. Gopinath Acharya says that is not the right way to understand the Supreme Lord. By Anuman, one can never understand Ishwar. Anumana nahi Ishwar jnane. By using your logic, how can you understand Supreme Lord? So Prabhupada writes, by such reasoning, Mayavadi philosophers, they come to conclusion. So the Mayavadis, they say this entire world is functioning very nicely. There must be somebody who is controlling it. So the Mayavadis also accept that there must be the supreme power. There is some supreme power who has created this universe. But what's the mistake they make? They do not accept that supreme person, that supreme power to be a person. They say that supreme power is impersonal. He's Brahman. So they do not understand Krishna as the greatest personality. They think Brahman is the greatest. And that's the basis of Mayavad philosophy. And Prabhupada says, but scriptures, they very clearly say, Brahma Samhita says, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Kotishvasheshava Sudadi Vibhuti Bhinnam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That Supreme Lord Krishna, he is the basis of Brahman. His effulgence is called as Brahman. Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratishtha aham. But Mayavadis, although they study literatures, they study Vedas, but they do not understand this basic concept. They do not understand that the last stage of absolute truth is personality of Godhead. Vadanti tattatvavida tattvam yadjnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. They do not accept Paramatma and Bhagavan. So the disciples of Bhattacharya, they wanted evidence. What's the evidence? Is there evidence? And Gopinath says, actually, nobody can understand Supreme Lord by logic or guesswork. I think he is the Lord. I think that person is the Lord. By guesswork, how can you understand? You can guess and get some knowledge, but you cannot get the knowledge of Supreme Lord by guesswork. Prabhupada quotes this Bhagavad Gita verse, Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita murhoyam nabijanati loko mama jamapyayam. I cover myself yoga maya samavrita by my yoga maya. People can't understand me. Who can understand then? Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Only devotees can understand the Lord because devotees have received the mercy of the Lord. Otherwise, nobody can understand. Guru Krishna Kripa Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. So Gopinath Acharya continues. By logic, you can never understand the Supreme Lord. Anuman pramane nahi ishwar tattva jnane. Kripa vina ishware ke he nahi jane. Nobody can understand Lord without His mercy. How many guesses you make, how much speculation you do, you will never understand who is Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada writes, people in this world, they are just enchanted by the magicians. That people are so foolish. Somebody will come and do some magical demonstration, he'll create some ash or he'll create some gold or something, and people start believing that this person is God. That is not the way for self-realization. One can understand the Lord only by following the devotees. Mahajano yena gata sapantha. Follow scriptures, follow the great acharyas. One cannot speculate and come to this understanding. And then he says, Ishwarera kripalesha haita yahare seita ishwara tattva jani bar pare. Gopinath Acharya continues that even if one receives a bit of the favor of the Lord, Ishwarar Kripa Lesh, Lesh Matra means a drop of the favor, a very fraction of the favor or mercy of the Lord, he can understand. Saita Ishwara Tattva Jani Bharatare. He can understand the Lord. Others cannot understand. And then he quotes a famous verse from 10th canto of Bhagavatam, when Brahmaji, he is bewildered in Brahma Vimohan Lila, he realizes that I have done a great blunder. He offers various prayers. One of the prayer he makes is Athapi te deva padambujadvaya prasadalesha nugrihita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno na chanya eko pichiram vichinvan. Athapi, oh my Lord, if somebody is favored, prasad means the mercy, lesh, a drop of mercy of your lotus feet, padam pujadvaya, janati tattvam, he can understand the tattva, he can understand you. Otherwise, if somebody speculates, na chanya ekopi, others they can never understand, even if they speculate for millions of lifetimes. And Prabhupada quotes this verse from Caritāmrta Sindhu. अतः श्री कृष्ण नामादि न भवेद ग्राह्यम इंद्रियै सेवोन्मुखे ही जिह्वा आदौ स्वयमेव स्फुरत्यदा. One cannot understand Krishna's name, form, pastimes by one's intelligence. Na bhaved grahyam indriyai. By using your senses, one can never understand. Lord is called as adhokshaja. Akshaja means the senses. Adhakshaja means beyond the senses. How can you perceive that thing which is beyond perceivable senses? Anything which is gross can be perceivable, but spiritual is not perceivable. How can you get knowledge about spiritual reality? Only by serving. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam sevon mukhehi jihva ado. Begin serving Krishna beginning from jihva, tongue. Two functions of the tongue, speaking and tasting. Speak about Krishna and eat Krishna Prasad. That is the beginning of knowing Krishna. So Prabhupada writes a simple statement. If Brahma can make a mistake in understanding Krishna, Brahma's body is not like our body, made up of 5 elements. Brahma's body is made of intelligence only. His body is full of intelligence. That's it. And he gets bewildered in understanding Krishna. So how can somebody claim, I can understand Krishna? Not possible. Nobody can understand Krishna by using one's intelligence. Only by mercy of Krishna one can understand Krishna. Otherwise, it is not so easy. It is impossible. Yadyapi jagat guru shastra jnanavan prithvi te nahi pandit tomar saman. ईश्वरेर कृपालेशु नहीं के तो मते अतएव ईश्वर तत्व न पारे जानिते. Now Gopinath Acharya says, although you are known as Jagat Guru, यद्यपि जगत गुरु तुम्ही शास्त्र ज्ञानवान, you are expert in all the scriptures. There is no scholar like you. पृथ्वी ते नाही पंडित तुम्हारा समान. There is no scholar like you in this entire planet Earth. But still, oh Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, let me tell you that because you have not received a drop of favor from Supreme Lord, Ishwarera Kripa Lesha Nahika Tomate. You have not received the mercy of the Lord. How can you understand the Lord? Ateva Ishwar Tattva Napare Janite. Therefore, you can never understand. By your logic, by your intelligence, nobody can understand. Well, what can be done? It is not your fault. Tomara nahi kadosha shastra ekoe. Panditye re Ishwar Tattva Jnana kabhu nahi. It's not your fault. Scriptures have already told this. Panditye re, by using your scholarship and intelligence, nobody can understand Krishna, Ishwara. Ishwara Tattva Jnana kabhu nahi. Prabhupada writes. This is a very important verse. Pandityere Ishwara Tattva Jnana Kabhu Nahi. There are so many scholars of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. There are people who have done PhD in Caitanya Caritāmrta also. At the same time, they are smoking, drinking, having illicit affairs. Mundane scholarship, if you use our mundane intelligence and try to understand scriptures, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, one can never understand. They may know the technical meanings of the verses, but they will not know the import of the verses. They will never realize those verses. They'll just know the technical understandings. One Indian scholar, Hindu scholar, came to meet Prabhupada, and he was a professor of Hinduism. And he met Prabhupada and he was talking, and he said, Swamiji, what is the meaning of Tadvidhi Pranipatena? So Prabhupada was explaining. So he said, Swamiji, I want to know the meaning of this Sharanagati. So Prabhupada said, surrender means you follow the instructions of spiritual master. No, Swamiji, what is the etymological meaning of surrender? Sharanagati. So Prabhupada was trying to explain and he was not ready to accept. Prabhupada said, you don't need a guru, you need a Sanskrit teacher. You go and find Sanskrit teacher. If you want to understand, you first become your mind. We have to become disciple. So this Hindu scholar, this scholar says, professor says, okay, from now I am your disciple, Swamiji. Now you tell me. Prabhupada said, okay, now you have accepted yourself to be my disciple. Now you shave up. You leave everything. You come, join temple, shave up, and then I'll tell. And then, Prabhupada was really strong on this person. So by mundane scholarship, one can never understand Krishna. Prabhupada says even big scholars cannot understand Krishna. And he quotes two verses from Katha Upanishad. Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhya Na Medhyana Bahuna Shrutena Yamaivaisha Vrinute Tena Labhyas Tasyesha Atma Vrinute Tanum Swam. He says Nayam Atma Pravachanena. The fact is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be attained by na medhya, by one's intelligence, na bahuna shrutena, by logic, by hearing, by erudite scholarship, by all the mundane learning, one can never understand. Even if somebody studies all the Vedic literatures, one can never understand the Lord. The Lord is not perceivable by mundane intelligence. However, even if somebody gets a drop of the mercy of the Lord, he can understand. Now, when Gopinath Acharya says, you have not received a drop of mercy, Sarvam Bhattacharya feels really bad. Sarabhaum kahe Acharya koha savadhane, tomate Ishvara kripa ithe ki pramane. Natural, logical question. He says, oh Gopinath Acharya, please be careful. Speak with care. You are going beyond your limits. What is the proof that you have received mercy of the Lord? You are saying that I have not received the mercy. What is the proof that you have received mercy? Very, very, logical and wonderful discussion is going on. Gopinath Acharya says, Acharya kahe vastu vishaya hai vastu gyan, vastu tattva gyan hai kripate praman. You are asking, what is the proof that I have received the mercy of the Lord? The knowledge of the Supreme Lord is the evidence of the mercy of the Lord. And the knowledge of the energies of the Lord tells me about the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada writes, Supreme Lord is non-different from his potencies. Shakti, Shaktiman, Abheda. You cannot separate the two. So, if somebody understands the Shaktis of the Lord, that means he understands the Shaktiman also. Prabhupada gives example. If there is a heat, then we can understand fire must be there. Although fire may not be visible, but we understand fire must be there. Similarly, if one can perceive the characteristics of the Supreme Lord, then one can say that, oh, this person has understood the Supreme Lord. Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriya Cha. So, by serving the Lord, one can understand the Lord. And therefore, Gopinath Acharya says, just see the effect. You are considering yourself to be a very learned scholar, but you are not aware of the basic principles. You are not seeing the manifestations of the supreme power. Just see the manifestations and you can understand. If you can understand the Shakti, then you can understand that, oh, this Shakti is coming from Shaktiman only. Ihara Sharire Saba Ishwara Lakshan Mahaprema Veshatumi Payacha Darshan. You personally saw the ecstatic symptoms in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have seen personally, Ihara Sharire, and in the body of Mahaprabhu, all the symptoms of Supreme Lord are there. But still, even after perceiving all this directly, we have not understood. Tabuta Ishvara Gyan na hai tomar, Ishvare Ramaya e boli vyavahar. In spite of seeing everything, still you are not accepting him to be the Supreme Lord. That is called as illusion. Dekhile na dekhe tare bahirmukh jan, shuniha shisarabham bolila vachan. He says, actually the person who is influenced by the external energy of the Lord is called bahirmukh. Bahirmukh means a mundane person. He's saying you are a mundane person. You are, although you are actually, Gopinath Acharya is becoming angry speaking all this. Because no devotee likes that. How can somebody tell Supreme Lord to be ordinary person? Gopinath Acharya is becoming angry and he's quoting verses after verses, speaking very, shastrically. He says, you are actually influenced by the external energy. You are Bahirmukh. And Sarvam Bhattacharya is seeing, oh, this personality is becoming more and more angry. So he is trying to pacify. Bhattacharya says, oh, Gopinath Acharya, why are you taking it as an offense? Why are you becoming angry? Just relax. I'm just presenting some, Shastric conversations, Shastric truths. Why are you becoming angry? I'm just doing Ishtagoshti. Ishtagoshti we do sometimes. The managerial discussions. So Ishtagoshti should not become Mushtigoshti. One should not fight in that Ishtagoshti. Ishtagoshti means you present the facts and the other party will present the facts and then there is a discussion and you come to a conclusion. But Gopinath Acharya is becoming angry here. Ishtagoshti vichar kori na kori harosh, Shastra drishtye kahi kichu na laila dosh. Oh, why are you angry? Why are you so angry? Please don't take it as an offense. And then he says, I accept that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a great personality. He's a great devotee. Uncommon. Mahabhagavata hoye Chaitanya Gosai. Ei koli kale Vishnure avatara nai. Now, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is presenting another argument. He says, I accept that Mahaprabhu is a great uncommon devotee, but Shastras say that there is no avatar of Lord in the Kali Yuga. And we see in the history, our history books, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sometimes mentioned as a great personality, a great saint, a social person who started bhakti movement, but nowhere it is mentioned that he is Supreme Lord, because it requires mercy. And he is not appearing as the Lord, he is appearing as a devotee of the Lord. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is asking a logical question. He says that there is no mention that Lord appears as avatar in Kali Yuga. Lord is called as Triyugi. Only in Triyuga he appears, not in Kali Yuga. And Prabhupada writes, yes, when it is said that Lord is Triyugi, that means the Lord does not appear in a direct form. He appears in disguise. And Prabhupada quotes a verse from the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. In Bhagavatam, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described as a hidden incarnation by Prahlad Maharaj. Ittham nritirya grishideva jhasavatarai lokan vibhavayati hamsi jagat pratipan dharmam mahapurusha pashyuganuvrittam channa kalau yadabhavat triguyot sattvam. He says, Prahlad is saying, oh my Lord, you appear in various avatars. Nri, Tirya, Rishi, Deva, Jasa, Avatar. You appeared in the society, species of animals, humans, aquatics, reptiles. You appear just for the welfare of people in general. And in Kali Yuga, you appear in a hidden incarnation. Channa kalau yadabhavat. Therefore, you are called as Triyuga. Triyugayot Sattvam. So Prabhupada writes, in other ages, Lord appears and kills the demons. But in Kali Yuga, Lord does not kill people. He kills their demoniac mentality. And that's why he doesn't appear in the obvious form of Lord. He appears as a devotee in a hidden incarnation. And then Gopinath Acharya, he shastrically proves how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that supreme personality of Godhead. And very, very wonderfully, he quotes many verses from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata to prove how Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary personality. He is the Supreme Lord himself. He is not just ordinary, a great devotee or a Mahabhagavat or uncommon. He is the Supreme Lord himself. Gopinath says, consider yourself as the scholar of the scriptures, but you have not studied the basic scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata, they are the two most important Vedic scriptures, but you are not conversant with them. I think you have not paid attention to the statements of Bhagavatam and Mahabharata, because it is directly stated there that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Lord. Lord appears directly in Kali Yuga, it is mentioned, and you are saying that Lord doesn't appear. In Kali Yuga, there is no lila avatar. And Prabhupada writes a list. He quotes so many scriptures, Brihad Bhagavatamrit and all the Laghu Bhagavatamrit, where it is mentioned how there are so many lila avatars. There are unlimited lila avatars, just like the waves in the ocean. And it says, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not lila avatar. He is Yuga avatar. And therefore, he is not counted in these three yugas, avatar of three yugas, because he is not Yuga, he is not Leela avatar, he is Yuga avatar. And he appeared in a hidden avatar, Channa avatar. प्रतियुगे कोरे न कृष्ण युग अवतार, तर्कनिष्ठ हृदय तुम्हार नाही का विचार. And you know that Lord appears in every yuga. Yuga avatar means every yuga Lord has to come. But because your heart has become so hardened by the logic, you can't consider all these facts. And then he starts speaking, various quotations from Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata. So that we'll be discussing in the next session. We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Srila Chaitanya Charitāmrta ki jai.